Nabak nang. Ya, ang dapat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you know, there's going to be a lot of issues about this. Will come out. Legal issues. They're gonna, ano, sabihin nila may dayaan kahit ano. Kasi, kasi there were issues ng ano, di ba? That people been burning mailboxes.
Yeah, but then it doesn't really matter because the electoral college will still elect.
Oh yeah.
There's only there's only 500 there. In the electoral college, they will vote. Dahil ang represent us, very popular vote.
That's the difference between the election here and doon.
At it's not by party.
By party, yeah.
Whoever is the winning party, the most elected party, yun, hawak.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, ang kahit may party with NDP, you have to vote all the NDPs.
Yeah.
You're halimpiatan kandidato na.
That's the thing, you just vote for the person. You're voting for the party dito.
Yeah. Sa Pilipinas, direct.
Yun ang pangit doon. Kasi ang chances na magkahalo-halo yung magkakaaway-away. Kaya pag may project, wala. Tingga.
Dati sa true democracy. Yun, dahil sa gayaan, wala rin sa ang democracy. Nakabak na pagkasa.
For the Filipinos in the States, they like him. Yeah. I'm surprised na ganyan. Pero, we don't know exactly what's going on up there, di ba? Down south. Kasi sila is, ano sila eh. Pero naman sila picky eh. Picky. Wala na. Lagot ang Pilipinas. Lagot si Duterte. Saan kaya ito galing?
Hindi kayo lagot si Duterte.
Kasi,
Ang idadari ko.
hindi na kaso-kaso na idin ka. Hindi na international court. Ay, basta.
Sinitran ko man na nga. Isa ka taga. Marami ka. Ako.
Kumot ay mga baka na naman din. Masyari siyang ano ba, yung
Very confident siya.
Yeah. Hindi, balik na siya sa apprentice. You're fired! Sampo.
Nicole?
Tapos kayo nito.
You wanna give it to me, Balong? Maybe the chicken.
So wash your hands. Do you want to drink something? Huh? Yes. What do you want to drink?
No, tita.
Think about the bone.
You're thinking about the bone?
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do with the bone? You gonna bury it?
I'm gonna break it. Because I remember there's surgery. They said there's a pelvish bone.
No?
You have to break it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this one works.
Yeah.
Agang angin pa yun.
Yeah.
Hindi ko pala inalaan. Hindi yan ah. Ang galing yung hindi. Straight up ito. Daring!
You okay, Steven? That's a large celebration. Celebration. Go wash your hands, Balong.
What's this outside?
You can do that to your plate. Mm-hmm. No. Just put everything in the garbage. Try to wear socks, Balong. Wear socks, Jen.
Sorry.
That's okay. Go wear socks, okay? Not my baby boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then if I don't have socks,
socks and carry me to the stairs then?
No. You gotta follow your pet.
Oh.
Go wear socks. AJ, Tito Gray, hello po, good morning. We're just watching the live coverage of the NBC for the American election. Let's see what's going on down south. So, as of today, Biden won 279 over Trump, which is kuha lang siya ng 214. 214 siya, 279 kay Trump, ay kay Biden. So, ang laki ng lamang, no? So, big celebration to para sa ano? Sa US of A. Kaya pala biglang nag-open ang Canada, no? Ang border. Ayan na. Sa harap to ng ano eh. Ng Washington eh. Sa White House. Kung saan kasalukuyan nakatira yung presidente ng Amerika. And while enjoying the snow outside, tingnan mo, ang snow sa labas. Binabagyo kami. Yan oh, ang lalim na ng snow. Oh. Ay, nako po, Dodong. Grabe no? Grabe ang celebration nila. Thank you dun sa nagtamsak sa kanya, binawi din, no? Thank you very much. Yan. Di mo mawari dito kung nagse-celebrate ba sila or they're rallying for their loss. No idea what's going on. There's no proper description. Yan. Sinong kumakain ito? Persimmon. Persimmon. Per tsaka si Simon. Dadaan na ako, sorry ah. Grabe, no? Malaki ito na celebration talaga sa US, okay? Ay. Good luck sa ekonomiya nila. Babagsak na naman yung ano nila dyan, for sure. Okay naman si Trump sa kung tutuusin eh. Sa akin, para sa akin ha, personal kong opinion lang po yan. Huwag niyo ako ibabash ha, don't bash me for that. Don't quote me for what I'm going to say. Actually, he's not that bad. Just people doesn't want to cooperate with him. That's all it is. Shout kay Night Boot, ha? Actually, dyan, hindi naman kagandahan yung city na yan eh. Kasi ano, puro luma yung mga building nila. Para kang ano, parang pumunta sa yung sinaunang city ng Canada. Hindi naman siya kagandahan. Sarap ng persimmon ah. But people are dancing over ano. So part of this group, they're doing a YMCA dance. Okay. So I don't see any things going to happen here anytime soon. So I guess let's see what's going on here. Oh yeah. I'm tired watching. Let's see for something more, ano. Balik na lang tayo dun. 2022.
You do not to go to Canada or Mexico, which is the tradition, to go to your neighbors.
As your first visit.
As your first visit.
The weirdest
And
first
remember
visit
that
ever,
Joe-
just to make Saudi
right.
Arabia your first stop.
And Joe Biden remembers 1992 in Little Rock. I was there. And they didn't get the cabinet and the White House staff appointed, nominated until Christmas Eve. It was an extraordinarily bad.
So
job
Joe
process.
Biden's going to
He
be the
already knows what
46th
he wants, and I think
US
he's ready to
president.
roll it out.
As you well know, the Biden transition team is already in place. I mean, those meetings are already going on. They've been going on.
Absolutely, and these are the
Doesn't-
people who have been part of his team, part of his universe, as well as presidential candidates.
But by the way, unlike Donald Trump, who couldn't reach back to a previous Republican administration to find people, which is also the struggle he had in his transition, is you had a mainstream, the establishment of the
Well, he
Democratic
wouldn't let
Party.
the never Trumpers.
Right.
He vetoed them.
So in
They were the
this
ones
way,
who didn't
putting
want to go.
together a government for Joe Biden, was in the previous Democratic government himself. So these are already veterans. And look, he's going to bring in new people because I do think you need to have a new generation. And it isn't just about appearance sake to have a new generation. I think it needs to be real. I think No more of these, these glass ceilings need to be gotten rid of on all of these cabinet posts. So there's
Well,
no
at
doubt
least
that
in the
we
US, they're
should see a lot
using
of that
masks
stuff
now. Before, they
shattered.
don't want to use
Um,
masks.
But I think it is
Look at
also
those
going to be
happy
about
faces they have
finding
now.
that balance and being responsive to the electorate as a whole.
I do think that there is going to be a significant focus on, Chuck, I think you were suggesting the diversity of Joe Biden's cabinet. I think that is one thing that Democrats on Capitol Hill, but also across the country, they're looking to see themselves represented.
You
in Joe
probably have
Biden's
a
government.
woman defense secretary, Michelle Flournoy.
And possibly a
If you
woman.
were dipping into that
Parang
body,
si
you'd
Condoleezza
probably
Rice.
say,
Condoleezza Rice
Possibly
was
the first
used to
woman
be.
Treasury Secretary, the first woman
Right.
defense secretary, sort of these last sort of, for some reason, relics, if you will, and just that stuff. And by the way, you shatter that stuff, and at the same time, you can still strike your ideological
Condoleezza Rice
balance.
was the
And
last
that's what he's gonna have to
female
do. It's not gonna
defense
be easy.
secretary
And-
nila
and
yata before.
He's going to have to strike this balance, but he does have in the same way Barack Obama was able to strike that balance when he came in, because he had a crisis immediately, and it was sort of like, look, you may have your issue that you really want. Come on, you've got to appoint this person, the deputy undersecretary of X. You're like, we don't have time for that right now. This time it's a pandemic. We don't have time for the little fights, and I think that also will benefit Joe Biden's ability to get the first cabinet that he wants. Put it that way.
We're showing you images that are coming into our newsroom from around the country, from Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C., and Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. Those are some Trump supporters, and we'll continue to monitor those images. Let's go to Kristen Walker. She's at Biden headquarters getting reaction. We mentioned, Kristen, already that Justin Trudeau, the president of Canada, has reached out to Joe Biden, the president-elect. What else are you hearing?
Let me read you what we're hearing from Justin Trudeau, and then let's talk about the broader context of how the world is reacting, Savannah. Justin Trudeau writes, "Congratulations, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Our two countries are close friends, partners, and allies. We share a relationship that's unique on the world stage. I'm really looking forward to working together and building on that with both of you." Look, President Trump was someone who ran on an America First foreign policy, and that is how he governed. And so some of America's traditional relationships with its foreign allies have been strained throughout the Trump administration, something that he would acknowledge and felt quite proud of. Frankly, he pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. These are things that Joe Biden has said he wants to rejoin. He said he wants to negotiate a better Iran nuclear deal. But just to give you a sense, and think about NATO.
Lovely
President
girl,
Trump,
thank you
had
for
a number of
coming.
NATO summits which were quite tense at times. You
Not
recall
actually
that one moment where you
live
had
streaming
several world
for
leaders
like
who
something
were
paangat
talking
or
about
something
the
like that.
president behind his back,
I'm just
mocking him. That was caught on camera. And that was something
nakikipagsimpatyal
that's
ako
been
sa
President Trump. He
happiness
saw as a
na
badge of honor.
nangyari
He would
ngayon sa
argue,
US of A
he forced
sa ating
those NATO
neighboring
member
country
countries to meet
from the
their
south.
commitments when it comes to
So,
foreign
yeah.
defense spending. But on the other hand, his critics would argue that some of America's most traditional relationships have been strained, and that has been a challenge for America's strength on the world stage. And at the same time, embracing some of America's foes, or those with whom America has had strained relationships with, like Vladimir Putin, like Kim Jong-un. Now, Biden has said, if you want to take North Korea as an example, that he would not meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. President Trump has met with Kim Jong-un 3 times, and still no nuclear deal, still no agreement for nuclear disarmament on the part of North Korea. So I think you are going to see a very different relationship with America on the world stage than we have seen in the past 4 years. It will be up to the historians to determine how that plays out. But Joe Biden has been very clear. He sees this very differently. He sees America's place on the world stage very differently. He does not subscribe to the America First foreign policy. I also want to make one more note, which is that Joe Biden has changed his Twitter handle. It now says President-elect, guys.
All right, Kristen, thank you. Let's go to Hallie Jackson now at the White House. Are you hearing any reaction from those in the president's inner circle, Hallie?
We are this morning, this afternoon, Lester. And a couple of things here. It has largely, I will tell you, been radio silence at this point. I think that I get the sense people are reeling from what I think folks knew was coming, but it is still the reality that they are now facing, save for 2 things, right? One, that inflammatory and misleading statement put out by the president this morning. The other, a press conference happening right now as we speak, actually up in Philadelphia, up in Pennsylvania, where the president's advisors are making baseless claims of fraud and continue to do so, with, interestingly, Rudy Giuliani confirming now what we have been reporting for the past 24 hours, that the president is not going to concede with this legal fight now ongoing. I have to tell you, though, there are others who get where we are right now, who understand where the Trump White House is. One person close to the White House called this the great anticlimactic ending that folks have been seeing for several days. The focus now is really shifting to people thinking about themselves, their own futures, with a White House official telling us that a lot of people are coming to terms with this. They're starting to think through the transition, where they're going to go starting in January. And a senior campaign aide lets our team know, too, that there is still some work to do. As we've been talking about, and as you've been talking about there on set, the question is, how does this transition look for President Trump? He is likely, based on my experience in the last 5 years covering him from Inauguration Day in 2017, he's likely to fume. He is likely to continue to push conspiracy theories about the election results. It may be a turbulent couple of months here. I will tell you too, Lester, right when the race was called by NBC News.
Yeah, it's going to be like that anyway.
You couldn't hear what was happening.
Always going to be an issue after the election, but it's going to be okay after that.
You can sure hear it now. We have been hearing more honking, more air horns, more cheering. It is a loud situation. The president, this is the scene. You can see actually it's filled up. And just to give you some perspective, on the top of your screen, you can see there's a fence and then a grassy area. That's Lafayette Park, which is just to the north of where I'm standing at the White House. It has been barricaded. The gates and the fencing have been put up, non-scalable, officials say, because of the expectation that this would exactly be the scene on election night. We had to wait 5 days for that, right? Took a while to get here. But this is why the reinforcements have been put in place around the White House, because of the expectation of potentially protests or demonstrations like the sort of celebration that we are seeing right now. At some point, the president's going to come back to the White House, Lester. He's at the golf course now. That's just across the Potomac River.
Really? So Trump is in the golf course right now.
He doesn't do that since it's such a close trip. He drives through the streets in his motorcade, and he will have to motorcade back through the streets of Washington with this scene visible to him. This is not a president who often gets glimpses of life outside the bubble, so to speak. He confronted that a couple of times recently. I'm thinking most notably over at the Supreme Court after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when people booed he and the First Lady when the two of them showed up after Justice Ginsburg was laid to rest in her there at the Supreme Court. But it is going to be, I think, a real potentially jarring moment for President Trump to see how the country is reacting to his loss as he continues to strike, frankly, this very defiant tone.
All right, Hallie, thanks very much. I just want to show you a picture that we're just getting in of Kamala Harris and her husband, Doug Emhoff. This is
Wow,
obviously
that's
reacting
going to be the
this,
vice president.
picture we wanted to share.
The first Jewish
Second.
vice presidential
First,
spouse.
second gentleman.
Okay, that's right. First, second gentleman. Say that real fast. First, second gentleman. I was glad to see so many Washingtonians out there wearing their masks.
Wearing masks,
I mean,
yes.
And peaceful.
And,
You know,
well,
I mean,
But this is a
I
happy,
was
this
just
is a
gonna
happy
say,
by
town.
the way, we saw.
be a gracious winner. Be good winners.
And by the way, the crowds in Harrisburg, the Trump supporters are also peaceful. So that is what we all hope for.
Yeah, the protest is as American as you can get. To hate each other is not.
Look,
And I
there
think
was-
that's what we need to remember as these days unfold.
It is interesting. We polled this to see how would the supporters of either side handle losing. And what was interesting is that it was the Democratic side that their side lost. The first emotion they told our pollsters was anger. On the Trump side of things, believe it or not, his base, the first emotion they said they would feel if Trump lost was disappointment. And the point is this: you do get that sometimes, which is you're more angry at something that you couldn't attain. You may be more disappointed at something you've had and then lost. So there is, I am very hopeful and optimistic that for the most be détente.
Let's talk to Casey about what's happening on Capitol Hill and in particular what Republicans are saying.
That's
either
a pretty
behind
good
the scenes or
result,
what
actually.
you're getting from your sources about this moment, this time before the president is willing to concede, but after the race has definitively been called for Joe Biden.
This is going to be, I think, a tenuous and potentially a difficult period, depending on how the president handles it for a lot of Republicans. We have not heard very much yet. I've been sitting here scanning through email, looking for statements coming in from Republicans or tweets. We have not yet heard very much. We had a call from Justin Trudeau. I'm looking to see if we're going to get news of a Biden call